And we heard examples of how these groups meet regularly in their workplaces to discuss and review their life there. From the workshop, we saw the necessity, or saw that it was quite useful to have YCW groups in workplaces, but we also wondered how, if this was done, whether or how they also should keep in touch with a local group where they also receive some spiritual formation. We found that there were lots of difficulties in organising meeting places and that at work, that should be encouraged.
In the workshop on revealing the Christian judgment to young workers through the work inquiry, we came to see that young workers must come to see the Christian value in their work, firstly through the human values. They must be presented with a spirituality which they, as young workers, can understand, and not be given just a doctrine on work which is meaningless to them. A clear example of this was given by the Congo Leo. This showed that how through the human values in work, these young workers came to see the Christian significance in it and what it meant to them. The chaplain must be encouraged to help the leaders discover this Christian value, and also encourage leaders to report fully the facts at their meeting, not just report very briefly on a thing and not go into it, because often through this some very important aspects are overlooked. The gospel must be used also in helping leaders to form this Christian judgment. It's something we have in the movement already, and which is not used perhaps as fully as it could be.
Some of the things being done in large cities. Here's an example from Spain. In Madrid, with a population of 3 million, the YCW has drawn up a plan of action for the whole city, taking into account that there are 7 different races living within the city, and 70% of the population are people living away from home who have come from the country to Madrid to find work. They're trying to adapt their programs and campaigns and action to the problems of these people living away from home. They've placed one person in charge of this action who is in fact living away from home, together with others in other groups, and they coordinate all this work. Some services that they've provided are hostels, recreation teams, and providing help for those doing military service. They also have YCW groups in various technical schools, recreation groups bringing together young people outside the YCW. They've provided a house for domestic workers. That's the lot.
You know, Porto in Portugal, every technical school has a YCW group. In Hong Kong, a library has been opened in a poor district, which is staffed alternately by leaders. And in Brussels, all because of the difference of languages, all groups living isolated from one another. There's a special action in living environments. And there's a Spanish girl, a full-time worker, who works exclusively among Spanish migrants.
In French Canada, with fellows and girls going to night school, if night school prevents them coming to leaders' meetings, they try to make sure that they still are YCW and carry on what they're doing, and a leader from their group keeps contact with that bloke or girl, sees them during the week and has a yarn with them and tries to help them with what they're doing, and then reports back on what that absent member is doing when he or she is at the leaders' group. Nearly every country seemed to be trying to do something about young people who are living in flats and apartments, and very few have got very far in solving the problem. Also, the problem of the over 20s is felt in many places. For example, French Canada, we've got the same problem as we have. It seems everywhere there's the problem that if you have a lot of leaders over 20, it's hard to get those under 20 and vice versa. Also, the problem in most cities of having real representation of all the different kinds of young workers. Some places are using different bulletins for their inquiries according to the different age groups of leaders.
In the capital city of Burundi in Africa, a population of 80,000, the YCW have invited one boy and one girl from each of the schools there to their study sessions where they join in the discussions. It is proposed to the students that they continue with these talks and sessions in the schools that they come from. They have a 4-year plan of paying more attention to visiting and making contact with schools, and they have asked the IYCW groups to do this. They also ask groups to make contact with the refugees in the settlements near their particular group. In Dahomey, the executive, the IYCW has a leader in charge of making contact with the technical schools. In Belgium, the IYCW have started a magazine which features only interviews with various people in different sorts of work and with young couples just married and the difficulties in preparing for marriage.
So in Manila in the last couple of years, the YCW has been trying to help many of the factory workers in the very big factories there. They begin by YCW leaders trying to get to know the young people as they leave the factory during lunch breaks and after work. They talk to the girls. Eventually they try to get them to go out together, to be invited home to the homes of the factory workers, to really sit down and talk to them about the working conditions, their life in the factory and outside. Eventually they try to come to the stage where they can sit down and talk about the work the YCW is doing and how the YCW is interested in the working conditions within the big factories of Manila, and to see if a group can be started in this or that particular factory. Many groups have been started within the factories, and often with the encouragement of the employer. Another thing they've done is, in many cases, in many factories, have been able to arrange nights of recollection for the factory workers, adults and young people, to try to understand the spirituality of work. And also a number of meetings have been called in various factories to talk about the meaning and the aim of trade unions.